Good morning and welcome to First Spiritualist Church, where angels are welcome and so are you. My name is Trenton Shine and I'll be your leader today. On our platform we have, I'm just going to go with first names, Douglas, Quentin, Pam, Reverend Lorena, myself, Trenton, and our speaker today, Chrissy's. So,
The usher.
our ushers are Patrick, Iris, and
Chief Joseph is back there.
Chief Joseph. It takes a village. So first up, we'll have our enlightening message with Reverend Lorena.
I'm going to have to stand over here and take my mask off because it's just easier this way right here. So if you please just close your eyes and take in a deep breath. As you exhale, release all tension in the body. Drop the shoulders down, release the temples. Take a breath in, allowing yourself to be here and present. Allowing this time to be for you, filling your cup and your energy. We thank you, wonderful Spirit, friend, beloved God, teachers, guides, and angels, loved ones on the other side, for joining us here today. As we invite you in, we ask that you open up our minds and our hearts and allow us to receive the words of wisdom that are being brought to us today. We ask blessings upon everyone here and those who couldn't make it. Blessings upon the planet and all of those here to bring peace. So invite your spiritual guides and angels into your vibration as you take a deep breath in. And feel that shift. We welcome you, wonderful Spirit, with gratitude and unconditional love as we gratefully receive your love, your light, and your blessings. The message that I've received this morning is abundance. And so many times we think that abundance is out of our grasp, out of our reach, that when we work harder, when we get to a certain place that we want to be or need to be, that we'll be able to have freedom financially. And abundance comes in so many forms. So first and foremost, they're telling me to show you, if you're focusing on the aspect of money alone, then you're focusing on the lack of having it. Focus on love. Focus on your joy and your happiness. So many times we live in a world where many of us sacrifice our happiness and our joy in the work field just to be able to pay our bills. But if we could make that shift and start focusing on what truly brings us inner joy, peace and love, get back to being a kid in that sandbox, on the playground, on the swing set. Often we forget that age is only a number, that child exists within us always. If we have the ability to carry a damaged child throughout our adult, why would we not be able to heal and release that child and bring that joyful child with us? Bring that playful child. Bring that kid that looks up at the sky and notices the shapes of the clouds. Look at the birds. When there's a bird that flies by that has a colored head, take the time to notice the flowers. Take the time to notice the cars, the things that you would have noticed when you were a little kid, the plane that flies overhead, the train that goes down the tracks. It was the simplest thing that got our attention. But as you grow up and it gets so serious, and we put so many expectations on ourselves, and the lack of abundance If you can step out of the financial aspect of it, you will realize right here, right now, each and every one of us are abundant. Look at us, we all walked in here. We have our masks, we have our safety, we have our lives, we have our health, we have each other. We have all the angels, our guides, all of those who are in this together. We are one collective consciousness. When you focus on your true joy, what brings me joy? Don't focus on what makes you angry. Don't focus on what limits you. Let that go. Because when you can focus on what's right, all the rest will flow. It will flow in. The money will flow. The job you want will flow. The friends you want are going to flow. The peace within your family, within your church, within your pets will all flow. But it does start with you. And it does have a meaning when it says you can't love others without loving yourself. Because if you really can't appreciate and love who you are, how can you possibly give the fullness of yourself to someone else? So the message is so clear to me. Abundance. If you're in a position where you don't feel like the money's flowing, shift your beliefs, shift your consciousness, and step back into the joy of why you're here and who you are and how much you are loved. And I thank you, wonderful Spirit, for bringing this message through. I thank you to all of you for being here today. I am honored. Namaste.
Part of the whole COVID safety is that we cannot sing as a group in church. And so today I will be doing 2 songs for you. And the first song that I'll be singing, I have a theater background, so both the songs I've chosen today are from Broadway shows. The first one is from The Fantastics, and was my grandmother's favorite song. The last time that I sang this to a group was at her memorial service. But it's a song that reminds us to think about better times and to appreciate that and have gratitude. So I'd like to sing that to you now. It's called Try to Remember. Try to remember the kind of September when life was slow and oh so mellow. Try to remember the kind of September when grass was green and grain was yellow. Try to remember the kind of September when you were a tender and callow fellow. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow. Try to remember when life was so tender and no one wept except the willow. Try to remember, and life was so tender that dreams were kept beside your pillow. Try to remember when life was so tender that love was an ember about to billow. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember, although you know the snow will follow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember, without a hurt, the heart is hollow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember the fire of September that made us mellow. Deep in December, our hearts should remember and follow. Thank you. And now at this time, I would like to present our speaker, Psychic Chrissy. She was born and raised in 1991 in Watkinsville, Georgia, a small town southeast of Atlanta. Growing up in the early 90s, 2000s, life wasn't the easiest. At a young age, she knew that she was different and she wasn't identifying with her outside appearance. Despite the world not understanding just yet what transgender meant, trying to embrace her true self, she was shot down by family, thinking she was too young to know who she was. As time passed, she went through challenges to find her true identity. Please help me in bringing up Psychic Chrissy.
Hi everyone, I'm Chrissy. I am a little nervous, but whatever.
You're gonna do great.
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about what it means to be yourself and on the journey to being yourself. So we're going to go back to 1991. I was born Christopher Jones, the first child of 3. My family was big, raised in the South, so they all had their own beliefs where kids are supposed to stay in a kid's place and kids don't know much. But I would say around the age, first grade, so 7, 6, 7, I knew that I was different. I would rather play with my sisters inside with the Barbie dolls and going outside with my male cousins or my uncles to throw a football or basketball. So I kept this in for a while, and I thought, my mom always tells me she loves me, so why can't I tell my family that I'm different? So we were down at my aunt's house. This was, I don't remember the exact day, but it was like nighttime, and I remember sitting in the middle of a sofa, and my mom's on this side, my aunt's on this side, and like my little sisters are on the ground, and I was like, I want to be a girl. So then my aunt looked and was like, you need to get him checked. Little boys don't talk like that. So my mom popped my leg, and I thought I was going to be in trouble for expressing how I really felt. And I remember like hearing my sisters like laughing, not saying it was in a malicious way, but it was in a way of like, as a kid, I don't really know much. So I remember at that moment, I buried it on the inside and was like, I can never be myself. I can never talk about this because if my mom's gonna go get me checked, it means I have to go to a crazy house. So I remember growing up like in elementary school, whenever the wind would blow, I felt like it was my hair. Or I remember there was another girl and a guy that was like in my 3rd grade class, and we would go out on the playground and pretend to be Destiny's Child. So I was like, oh my God, I get the moment to be myself. I think I was Kelly, and one was like Beyonce and Michelle. So we were like, okay, we get to be different. I'm sorry. And so I felt free around certain friends at that age. And then I remember when I got to 4th grade, which kind of has like a struggle with me now with like my own race, not to be like racist or anything. But I remember my first and only African-American teacher, she pulled me up and was like, in front of the class, everybody was reading, so she was kind of loud so everyone could hear her. And I remember her saying, one day you're gonna have to choose if you wanna be a boy or a girl. And I'm thinking to myself, how did she know this? She's not my mom. And two, you're not my mom, you shouldn't be talking to me like this, and I'm embarrassed in front of my classmates. And she was like, because you act like a girl, like, so do you want to be a boy or a girl? And at the time, I'm thinking, I guess a boy, like my mom already told me not to say anything, and I felt like she would tell my mom, because she was my mom's 4th grade teacher too. I live in a small town, Watkinsville, Georgia, probably like 2,500 people max. So I started crying. She gave me a popsicle to like get me to sit back down, and I remember just being like so afraid to like stand up in front of the classroom to give presentations. I used to hate walking late into class because everybody would look at me. So I always wanted to be the first one in the class. I never wanted to do presentations. Sometimes I would take points off just because I didn't have to stand in front of my classmates looking at me. Because I didn't know they would know like my secret of me being, I guess at the time, gay. But it wasn't me being gay, it was just me being trans. So I remember like 5th grade is when I started to really realize that this wasn't a phase. And I remember my dad worked at an elementary school as well, and he was the supervisor of like the janitors, so he didn't have to like really clean up the whole building, but he stayed in the office most of the time. So I remember after school, I would go in the cafeteria and they had a stage, and I would get on the stage and have like my headphones on and play like Ashanti's music, Aaliyah, and I thought that I was a girl at that time. And I remember one of his coworkers came and caught me, but I feel like she knew, and she's still a good friend of mine now. So I was like, this is how I escape. And I used to daydream a lot growing up, and everybody wanted to grow up and be this and that. All I wanted to grow up is just to be myself. And I never thought it would be able to happen when I was in elementary and middle school, because we didn't know what trans meant. And any time that I would Google it, you heard like a hermaphrodite, is that one? And then you would see like the porn stars, and I said, well, I don't want to be that, so that's not who I am. I looked at the labels of this is who they were, and I want to represent that. So I remember in middle school, I would tell my female friends that had like crushes on guys or whatever, and I thought it was weird. How did they find out that I had a crush on them? So it was all this pressure of being in the South, trying to go by society's standards and being so suppressed. So I started to tell myself that I was like a secret agent on a mission with like a zipper on my back, where I'm here as a guy to like see what's going on, and I get to go back later to get off my job. That never really happened at the time. So as I got to high school, I never really wanted my friends to hang out with my family, because like I had 2 lives. Like around my family, I was always scared and quiet. One, because when I tried to be myself, they shut me down, and I didn't know how to tell my mom that I was trans or this is what's going on, so I tried to pretend. And then my dad's the head deacon at our church, so I felt like I didn't want to embarrass him. And then we're in the church and they're always talking about gays going to hell or men wearing women's garments. So I didn't know what that meant. Like, what does it mean for a man to wear women's garment? I don't know if that's like a cross dresser or is it neat, you know, like whatever. So around high school, 12th grade, I started not caring about my high school because I lived with my dad growing up, and my mom then lived in like another town. It was like Athens, Georgia, with my siblings. So I was raised more by my father's side, and I knew that my family wouldn't find out about me having this secret identity. I lived like 2 different lifestyles my 12th grade year. So in art class, I would take the paint and put like mascara on or like paint my eyelids with the purple paint. And my friend gave me this little purse, and it was like only my like pencils can fit, but I would carry it around. But when I got home, I would put it up in my book bag and not show anybody. And my 12th grade marketing class, we were sitting there, and I was like, what would my name be? And they would call me like Christina or Chrissy. So we wrote Christopher Renard Jones on the board, and then we X'd out Christopher and put Chrissy. And then my middle name is Renard, which is spelled R-E-N-A-R-D. And I was like, well, that's a guy name, what we're gonna do. So we dropped the R and the D and put 2 E's, so that's how I got Chrissy Renee. So like my marketing class as a collective helped me come up with my female name. So I don't know how I went from that to now of believing that we actually live in a world where I can be myself. And I just remember hating myself. I remember hating life, or I just had this frustration of our society where people are walking around as zombies. Like, you know, some people are worrying about they're going to fail this class or if their parents are going to be able to do this. And all I was worried about is like, am I ever going to be able to be myself? Because my graduation, we had to do this thing like what we're going to be for careers. So I thought I was going to be a nurse because once the job is always going to be there. And then I thought, well, I can be this gay guy that hides and just get paid a lot. And then after I graduated, on my graduation day, my principal knew that my nickname was Chrissy, so he called it out. And I remember my mom after graduation was like, what did they call you when you crossed the stage? I said, oh, they say Chris. Like trying to like overlook it. So when I graduated, I started a YouTube channel and it was Chrissy Renee. And it was like comedy videos. I would have a webcam with a wig on and I would just express myself like Chrissy's gay, da 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 da, this is who I am. And I had these characters. And not knowing, or I should have known, that it was going to get around my town. I remember my little sister was in high school in her town, and they were like, look at this girl on this YouTube channel, like this is funny, whatever. So she went over and she looked, and she's like, oh yeah. And then when she got out of school, she called me and was like, we were watching your videos, and I didn't know they were going to even find out about it. So I started to get support from people around the world online that were going through what I was going through. So it made me feel that I had a voice for younger people, or that little boy that used to pretend to be on the stage of wanting to be just themselves and just going out and just being happy. So I had to keep going. And I got this job at Burger King and I was still a guy. And I remember telling my aunt, like, I want to transition. They're like, why can't you? Because my managers told me that they hired me as a male, so I had to stay a male. They brought a Bible there, and she showed me the quotes in the Bible or the verses saying about like how they, you know, the Bible felt about gays. So I kind of didn't like going to work, and it was also from African American people. I don't know if it's just, this is my opinion, I don't know if it's because they've been so suppressed for so many years, it's so judgmental, this community, but I've always had an issue with fitting in with my own skin color with my transition. Like if I walk in a room and they're Caucasian people or Asian people, oh, she's she, but if I walk in a room with African American, it's like, oh, him. And I'm trying to figure out, like, how do you know when they don't know? So it's like a thing that's going on, and even with that internal now. But I remember being in this job and I wanted to get my nails done, so I got my nails done. I remember coming and my manager saw me. She's like, did you get your nails done? So she made me go clean the drains with this toothbrush in the kitchen. She had me go outside, like in the drive-thru with this pressure washer, and I had this, like this brush. It's like this long pole. I remember breaking my nose and I was like so upset because it's like, wow, I've got to be myself. And they used to like pressure me into like wanting me to quit, and I didn't want to give up on myself because, like I said, I would vlog after work on my YouTube channel. It's like, this is what I'm going through, and other people would go through it, and other people was like, well, you helped me understand that I can come out to my family. So I didn't want to give up on that, so I ended up leaving that job and got another job. But I guess the message here is, just because you're in a place now or was back then, it doesn't mean that you can't be who you want to be in the future. And you have to just go with the flow of life and all the lessons. Like, now I'm glad that I went through the being bullied in school and being called names, because now by me having an online presence, when people are saying mean things to me now, I have a thicker skin. Or me walking and standing up here, I wouldn't be able to do this when I was younger. So it's like I'm able to go within and love myself more, and I'm able to attract things because it's not me that's the problem, it's the outside world that's looking at me that has something to do with themselves. And I felt like living in Georgia just wasn't the thing anymore because I had to like date guys secretly, they weren't really open. So I came to California in 2015. And originally I came out for a vacation for Gay Pride, and I was like, oh, everybody's so welcoming here, like my town's not like this, we don't have a Gay Pride. So I remember going back home and telling my mom, I'm moving to California in 2 weeks, and no one believes me. And I'm like, well, this is what I want to do. So I put my 2 weeks notice in at my job then, just to make sure that I had to go. And I packed up my Honda, I had this two-door Honda at the time, and I packed up all my clothes in the trunk. I had a crock pot, my box fan or whatever, and I drove across the country in 3 days with my best friend at the time. And I was coming here because I wanted to transition. And I worked, my last job at the time was at a doctor's office, which is like a foot doctor. So I was the billing and coding and like ITP codes and stuff like that. And I remember having the access to the doctor's thing of seeing all the coverage in the world. So I looked and said, where can you get your gender reassignment? And it was like California, Texas, and New York. And I didn't want to go to New York, too crowded. Texas is like the South to me, I felt. So I came here. And when I came, I thought I had it all planned out, but it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. But I'm glad that I went through what I went through because it made me fight for what I wanted. Like I had to live in TJ for 6 months because I couldn't find a place here that I could afford at the time of me moving here. Because I only had like $400 in my bank account. So I lived in TJ, didn't know any Spanish, but I knew on my phone I didn't have a translator. So when I would go to the store, I would tell them 1 second, and I would type up my message and show it to them, and they were like, go back and type back for me. So I made that happen somehow, living it. Like it was crazy, I didn't know my way around, but I learned my way around. I remember I wanted Wi-Fi in Mexico, and I was like, I'm gonna go find it. So I went downtown, I was just walking around with the phone, like, can you read this? Where's the internet? So I found it, so I got Wi-Fi. And I ended up moving back because it was at this point where I got my car towed at one of my friend's house here, and I was working at Jack in the Box when I first moved here. And I was like, well, I need to get my car back. I don't have much money. Like, I was still struggling. So I knew these trans people, and they were escorts. So I ended up starting to escort because I felt like it was either do this or go back to Georgia and fail and never be close to your goal. So even being yourself, sometimes you have to sell yourself short or basically lower your standards to fight for what you want. And I was able to do that and prove myself. So I did that for like a couple months, and I was able to move out of Mexico back to San Diego, like Linda Vista. So I've been there since. And my message out there with members is, you never know what somebody's struggling with on the inside. If somebody's so shy, like it's not that they're awkward, like this person may be struggling with identity issues and they're just ashamed of themselves, or they've been embedded in their past that they can't be this way for some whatever reason of beliefs or society. That I hope one day everybody can just live in a world where they don't have to worry about, will I lose friends? Because I lost a lot of friends when I transitioned that I thought were my friends. But the people that I met after are better and more beneficial for my growth. And, okay, getting ahead of myself. Okay, and it's funny that when people make fun of you, to see how the roles will reverse. Like the men that would make fun of me in high school, oh, you're a faggot or whatever, and now they're in my inbox, like wanting to like go on dates with me and whatever. So it's like you never know who's gonna get the short end of the stick when they're older, and you never know like what you know, like when you're mean to someone and you might be mean to them, but you may need them to hire you one day. So that's why I always felt like to just embrace everyone, and that's why I feel like I am shy around here too, because it's like I feel like I may be the first trans person here, or is there others? Oh, well, if you are out there, hi. So, yeah, we blend in. So, I feel like we're trying to show the world that we're just human, and just, like, I don't know why it's so crazy for me to be myself and now this person's father, and like the stuff that's going on with Donald Trump, and he's taking away the health rights for trans people being denied, and just hearing how it's like an emotional thing, because I wish if I can go back to tell my 6-year-old self that was so scared, it's like one day you're gonna be yourself and you're gonna have all of your surgery, because I just had my final surgery in April 27th, and I remember waking up and just feeling this release of, I don't have to pretend anymore. Like I even changed up my hair now, because I thought like before I had to have long hair to be a woman, so I would wear longer wigs or longer extensions. And now I'm wearing my real hair, I'm like cutting the hair, put bangs. So it's like the greatest happiness or the greatest success or satisfaction or stability to me is just being myself. And I have realized that if I pretend to be something, then I'm just getting false people or false attractions coming towards me, versus just me being pure, and I'm getting pure people, but there may be smaller amounts, but it's better to have more people than all this dead weight in the bag. So it's hot. Okay. So I just hope if there's something that you want to change about yourself or something you want to express about yourself, that you're not going to be ashamed to do it and you're not going to be scared to do it. Or even if you have grandkids or children that may be afraid, just to ask them, so who are you? Or just asking someone, like, is there something that you're struggling with? Because, kids don't want to tell their parents at home that I'm being bullied at school or this is happening to me. They want to act tough about it because you don't want to be the weaker. So, yeah. It's not really a long speech, so.
That's great.
Yeah. I hope you guys took something from this. Of just being yourself. Yeah.
You're one of the bravest women I've ever met.
Yeah.
And what you said here today and on that camera is going to help so many people. And for you to just come out and speak your truth and be who you are and your Mexico experiences and all of that, like, seriously, I am so honored for you to be in my life, because if you have the courage to be who you are and go through the things that you've been through, then certainly I will always have the courage to be me. And I hope that this message is what has really touched everyone. I'm honored.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chrissy, for being generous
Great
with your
lecture.
story. Not only because it's Pride, but because this is an important time to have people share stories that we don't hear all the time, and embrace them and see the commonality between them. So thank you so much. At this time, it is our love offering. If you can take out your donation, or if you don't have money and you have love to put into your hands, you can do that. You can also Venmo us and PayPal us through First Spiritualist San Diego. I think
Oh, I forgot to put the Venmo paper in.
I don't have the Venmo paper, but you can talk to us afterwards. But it's put your donation in your
She went
left.
to go get it.
Is it your left hand or
That hand.
left hand with your right hand over it? And we will repeat the affirmation 3 times together. Divine love in me blesses this offering and increases by conscious affairs. Divine love in me blesses this offering and increases by consciousness of peace and prosperity in my affairs. Divine love in me blesses this offering and increases by consciousness of peace and prosperity in my affairs. Always.
We thank you, wonderful Spirit, for all of the blessings that are given here today. The gifts of wisdom, love, and monetary donations. We ask that all of these gifts be used for the highest and best good of the church and everyone who comes here. We are truly thankful for all of our blessings and know that all of our gifts are returned 1,000-fold. So we thank you, wonderful Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Lord.
And again, and so I'll be singing another song from dear Evan Hansen, and it is called You Will Be Found. Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear, like you could fall, and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around, you will be found. You will be found. Unknown, and every time you call out, you're a little less alone. If only you say the word from across the silence, your voice is heard. Oh, someone will come running. Oh, to take you home, to take you. Crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again, and if only you look around, you will be found. You will be found. Out of the shadows, the morning is breaking, and all is new, all is new. It's filling up the empty, and suddenly I see that all is new, all is new. You are not alone, you are not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. You are not. You are not alone. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If only you look around, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found. Now, if there are any newcomers, is there anyone here for the first time at church? We have a newcomers. What you'll receive is to fill out the form and put it in the little angel box in the back, and you'll get a psychic reading. And then there's 2 tickets on there, usually for lunch, but today, because of COVID, we don't have lunch. Hopefully in the fall we'll get back to our delicious lunches. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming today, though. Now is the time for in our service where we have spirit communication and messages. And if one of the people on the platform come to you and you would like a message, just say yes, and if not, just say no. That's perfectly fine. Also, if I often sit out there and listen to other people's messages because I hear things for myself, and so sometimes messages come in different ways. So our first message bearer will be Quentin.